Well, you clicked on this video because you want to know why you shouldn't buy a turnkey rental property. I'm going to tell you exactly why you shouldn't and some of the pain points and what you should do instead. Here we are at our very first rental property. Thanks everyone for joining me. I'm Clayton Morris, longtime real estate investor. First of all, what in the world is turnkey real estate? Well, at its simplest form, you get the keys, you turn them, and you're done. Wow, that sounds amazing. I'm joking though, but that's essentially what turnkey real estate is. But for a little bit of a deeper definition, it's when a company finds an off-market property, either renovates it to a rent-ready condition, or it builds a new construction property from the ground up, built from the ground up. Then that company works with a local property management company to rent that property out to a tenant. Now, sometimes the very same company that's renovating the property also later manages the property. And then you buy the property yourself and you start receiving rent as the owner. That's essentially what the turnkey model is all about. So let me tell you why you should avoid this type of investing. Number one, time. If you have a lot of free time on your hands, you should avoid turnkey real estate for a few reasons, which I'll get into in a second. But you should take that extra time and devote it to finding off-market properties, building a great team of contractors, managing those contractors, hiring inspectors, going to the city to pull building permits. Seriously, it takes a lot of time to do it correctly. So I have a whole tutorial on setting up a direct mail campaign and making 100 phone calls a week to find off-market properties. You should watch that full video if you have that time and you're interested. So when you're paying a turnkey company, you're paying them for all of that time that they have to put in to building or renovating a property. You're paying them for the teams that they've spent years cultivating. So if you have the time, you should do it yourself. Another benefit of you doing it yourself is taxes. If you can show the IRS that you are a real estate professional, now pay attention to this, that means that you spend more than 750 hours per year on real estate and you don't have another full-time job, then you qualify as a real estate professional. This essentially dramatically alters your tax bracket. Instead of being a passive investor, you're now categorized as active. So again, if you've got time on your hands and you don't work another job, you should absolutely consider doing it yourself. All right, number two on my list is savings. You could save a lot of money if you do it yourself, a lot of money. Now imagine if you did the renovations yourself and didn't have to pay a contractor. If you have the time to learn a new trade or a new skill like retiling a bathroom or kitchen, you'd save thousands by not paying someone else to do it. You might also want to cut some corners and not spend as much on renovations as I do. For instance, here's a new construction property that we just wrapped up. And we spend extra money on nice trim in this property and hardware because that leads to better tenants and higher rents. But if you're doing it yourself, you can cut those corners and save money. Don't put in the trim. Use base grade cabinets instead of the more expensive style that I use. Here's an example. I have a friend in my neighborhood in New Jersey that worked a day job at Verizon. And he used to buy off-market properties in the neighborhood and he'd move his family into them. And then he'd spend 2 years methodically renovating the houses. The things that he couldn't do, like electric work, of course, he'd hire a licensed electrician to do that. Then after 2 years, he'd sell that house. He waited 2 years so he wouldn't have to pay capital gains. Now, he was a flipper, not a buy and hold investor like me, but my point is that he spent every free moment he had working on these houses. The weekends, I would always see him working on these houses. In the 6 years since I met him, he flipped 3 houses and he mostly did all the work himself. Number 3 on my list, hands-on. If you're a hands-on person that loves to get your hands dirty with every little detail, then you should do it yourself. If you're the kind of person who would be upset that a turnkey company painted the living room a Chesapeake gray color, which is a color I use in a lot of our rental properties. Anyway, if you'd get upset because you wanted a beige color there, then do it yourself. Remember, buying a turnkey property is meant to be hands-off. They're doing all of the work. They have a system that works. They're able to get bulk orders of paint because they do a lot of them. If you want to be on site every day picking out carpeting and paint colors, then that tells me you enjoy it. You should do it. You love those HGTV flipping shows because there's a level of control that you enjoy. You should absolutely be doing it yourself because if you don't, you're going to drive yourself nuts wishing that you could be more involved. So just be honest with yourself. Are you a control freak? Then do it yourself. Number 4, property management. A good turnkey company will also work with great property managers that take care of any issues that arise. They'll also screen and manage tenants in the properties. But you pay them every month. You pay them about 10% of the monthly rent. Now, if you want to save 10% a month and manage the properties yourself, then turnkey is not for you. If you do it yourself, I do have a few videos where we talk about different tenant screening software products that you should consider. Property management is a job though, so I do caution you to make sure you have a plan for scaling that. What I mean is that if you have one property, you might find that managing that one tenant is pretty easy, right? Like you rented out a house to an old friend. Great. But what about when you have 10 properties and 10 tenants? That's a lot. That's a job. Number 5 on my list is overspending. I know this contradicts our second point around saving money, but you might want to over-upgrade your rental property, spend more on it. And that's something you need to feel comfortable doing. So if you want to spend more money than is necessary on a rental property, then you should. It's your money. And if it brings you peace of mind, then it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. Don't listen to other people. For instance, I have had some clients that actually wanted to put solar panels on the roof of their rental property. The panels cost more than the entire house, but they wanted to spend the money. No one else in the entire neighborhood had solar panels. Or people that want to put granite countertops in properties that really should only have Formica countertops. That's their choice. The amount they get for rent won't change at all, but they'll feel better about themselves if they spend that additional money. So if you like to overspend, then perhaps you should do it yourself. So there you go. These are 5 basic reasons to avoid turnkey real estate investing. Check out this video on the power of cash flow that we just did and why it's the most important way to build wealth. We'll see you next time, everyone.